Eddie Guerrero was not just a wrestler. He was a warrior, a survivor, and a man who fought through every obstacle life threw at him. His story is one of struggle, redemption, and triumph. But before he became a legend, he was just a kid from a famous wrestling family with something to prove. This is the story of Latino Heat. Born into wrestling, Eddie Guerrero was not just born to wrestle, he was destined for it. Growing up in El Paso, Texas, he was part of the legendary Guerrero wrestling dynasty. His father, Gory Guerrero, was a wrestling pioneer, and his older brothers were already stars in Mexico. Wrestling was not just a career path for Eddie. It was in his blood. As a child, he spent hours in the family wrestling ring, learning moves before he could even ride a bike. He idolized his older brothers and knew that one day he would carry the Guerrero legacy forward. But being born into wrestling did not mean success would come easily. Eddie had to earn his place, fighting to be seen. In the early 1990s, Eddie started making waves in Mexico's lucha libre scene. Competing in CMLL and later AAA, he quickly became known for his high-flying moves and technical brilliance. But it was not until he formed a tag team with Art Barr, known as Los Gringos Locos, that his star truly began to rise. The duo was hated in Mexico, portraying arrogant Americans who disrespected lucha libre traditions. But their talent was undeniable. Their matches were electric, filled with drama, storytelling, and breathtaking action. Eddie's performances caught the attention of major promotions in Japan and the United States. And soon, he had an opportunity that would change his career forever. ECW, A Star is Born. In 1995, Eddie Guerrero made his debut in Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW, and within weeks, he became a fan favorite. His legendary matches with Dean Malenko and Too Cold Scorpio showcased his technical mastery and raw passion. Even in a company known for brutal hardcore wrestling, Eddie stood out through pure skill. He was not the biggest, he was not the loudest, but in the ring, he was one of the best. His success in ECW caught the attention of WCW, and soon, Eddie was headed to the big leagues. But what should have been his moment of arrival turned into a fight for survival. Eddie Guerrero arrived in WCW with a chip on his shoulder and a point to prove. He was not the biggest guy in the locker room, but he had something no one could deny: talent that could steal any show. But in a company dominated by giants, politics, and backstage favoritism, could Eddie Guerrero break through? WCW, a superstar in the shadows. WCW had some of the best technical wrestlers in the world: Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko, Rey Mysterio, and Eddie Guerrero. They were called cruiserweights, but to the fans, their matches were often the best of the night. Eddie Guerrero put on classics against Rey Mysterio, including their legendary match at Halloween Havoc 1997, which is still considered one of the greatest matches in wrestling history. But while fans loved him, WCW's management did not see Eddie as a main eventer. The company focused on established stars like Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Goldberg, leaving Eddie and his peers stuck in the mid-card. Frustrated and feeling overlooked, Eddie decided he had one option left: walk away from WCW and take a gamble on himself. WWE, Latino Heat takes over. When Eddie Guerrero arrived in WWF, later WWE in 2000, he was part of the Radicals alongside Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn. But while the group made an impact, Eddie was different. He had something special. His charisma was undeniable, his wrestling ability was unmatched, and his personality, pure gold. WWE gave him a chance, and Eddie made sure the world knew his name. He became Latino Heat, a cocky, lovable rogue who lied, cheated, and stole his way to victory. He was the ultimate underdog, a man who played his own rules, and fans could not get enough of him. But behind the scenes, Eddie was fighting a battle far more dangerous than any he faced in the ring: the darkest chapter. Success in wrestling came with a price. The grueling schedule, the constant travel, and the pressure to perform took a toll on Eddie. He fell into substance abuse, and in 2001, WWE had no choice but to release him. Losing his dream should have been the end. Instead, Eddie Guerrero did something that most never do. He fought back. He entered rehab. He got clean. He rebuilt his life from scratch. He wrestled in smaller promotions, worked his way back up, and by 2002, WWE gave him another chance. Eddie did not just return. He came back better than ever. WrestleMania XX, the ultimate redemption. Eddie Guerrero clawed his way to the top, winning the WWE Championship in 2004 by defeating Brock Lesnar in one of the most emotional victories in wrestling history. It was more than just a title win. It was a symbol of everything Eddie had fought for. He proved that size does not define a champion. Heart does. He celebrated with his best friend Chris Benoit at the end of WrestleMania X, two underdogs who had defied the odds. But just when it seemed like Eddie's story had reached its perfect ending, tragedy struck. A legacy that lives forever. On November 13th, 2005, Eddie Guerrero passed away at just 38 years old. His death shook the wrestling world to its core, and to this day, his absence is felt. But Eddie Guerrero is not forgotten. His influence can be seen in every underdog who fights for their spot, in every high-flying wrestler who brings energy to the ring, and in every fan who still chants his name. Eddie Guerrero did not just wrestle, he inspired. What is your favorite Eddie Guerrero moment? Let us know in the comments.